Yeah, okay. New player circle. So, get low. Yeah.
Hey man, say man, you already know what I'm gonna say, man. It's your local neighborhood player. Drake Damone Jr. kicking in the Player Circle podcast. We don't try to fit a square into a circle. And hey man, today, man, we doing a movie review, man. I got wifey with me, man. I got Pops, man. We sitting here kicking it. Pops, host of the Damn Loud Brothers podcast, and baby is the host of the Hurt Thoughts podcast, man. So what's up with y'all, man? How y'all doing?
You go first. Don't let the women go first. Go first.
How you doing, baby?
I'm doing good. Ready to talk about this.
We ready to talk about this. How was the movie? You enjoyed it?
It was an amazing movie. It was really good. It was probably the best movie I've seen in a long time, especially since COVID.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. How about you, Pops?
Um, it was an amazing movie, and if you grew up, I'm going to come from a whole different perspective. If you grew up in the church and you know the meaning of different things in the Bible, it just it's a different. It had a different message to people that grew up in the church compared to people not growing up in the church.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, it was a lot of symbolism in this movie. Uh, a lot of people were saying it was weak, it was bunk, it was trash. And once I seen it, I instantly knew those people were still plugged up. They still caught up in the matrix.
Yeah,
They ain't really tapped into their higher self yet. They still vibrating on a certain frequency. So we gonna review this movie review. We're gonna give our buzz down and talk about how we feel the movie impacted us and the culture. Let's just get to it without any further ado, man. You already know what to do, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get to the video.
And one of the most anticipated films, one of my most anticipated films of 2025, finally released, and that's Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Sinners is an extraordinary film that weaves tales of vampires with hoodoo, horror in the 1930s Jim Crow South, exploring tension between establishing a legacy and owning an identity, and a touch of cultural appropriation, of course. The film finds this beauty and depth and power in one of the most devastating periods in history, while simultaneously conjuring ancestral spirits through music and battling vampires. It goes without saying, this film is my cup of tea, and I've looked at Ryan Coogler as a beacon in film since I first saw Fruitvale Station. So in this video, I'll be breaking down the movie, but more of a technical perspective, analyzing the film from what worked and what didn't work. But yes, I will also be including a lot of hidden details. As much as Sinners is a vampire and period movie, it's very much rooted in a cultural lineage. As you may have already seen, Ryan Coogler has been very transparent about where the movie's inspiration came from, noting his grandfather and Uncle James, who both hailed from Mississippi. His uncle later moved to Oakland. Uncle James would listen to Delta blues music, and after his passing in 2015, Coogler began to associate that music with him, connecting and reminding him of his uncle, which dances in the theme for this movie where music transcends both life and death. The film opening by highlighting the belief in wood carvings by including the Irish poets and singers who believed they could foresee events, the Choctaw Firekeepers, and the griots of West Africa. You might recognize the name from Wakanda Forever. That was also the name that Shuri gave her AI, after the same storytellers. All three groups serve as practitioners who preserve their history and culture through storytelling, usually through some form of oral tradition, verbally being passed down through poems, songs, dance, you name it. The idea that music can transcend life or time isn't really unheard of. Music has been a long-standing medium in oral traditions and is often linked to something more spiritual or something beyond. It's the conflict between music and religion and the possibility that there can be truth to myths that makes this narrative more compelling in the film. The movie officially begins in Clarksdale, Mississippi, October 16th, 1932, a day after the violent events, and you can already see the vibrant dark colors and sheen of the full landscape at work, and how
So I just want to touch on that, the musical aspect of the film. What did you guys pick up from that? I'll let you go first. Maybe.
He's like, who? Oh, hell, you ain't talking to me.
So for me, I think what spoke a lot was the music frequency. They touched on that. I do think that frequencies talk to us in a certain type of way. It's like certain music I can't even tolerate. And I think as we get older, we don't realize that the reason we can't tolerate it is because it's no longer talking to the frequency we're on. So in the movie, I think it definitely touched on that. Um, that music does hold a deeper meaning than we think. It also connects us to other things, other past music. Um, and I think that part of it was on point. I felt that whole moment of them going through and
They was dancing in the
showing the dancing, how the old songs would meet up with the new songs and the new generation. Um, I definitely thought that that was a good touch because we do hear even in our songs today, we hear the blues, we hear all these different things from the past, jazz, everything. We hear all of that in our music today. And like I said, the frequencies,
the beats.
the different sounds of the beats and the drums, and you don't understand why it talks to you, but there's a different meaning behind it for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that at the beginning when the movie comes on and they show the different drawings of stuff, they didn't have iPhones, they didn't have podcasts, they didn't have none of those things. They didn't even have TV at the time. So entertainment was older folks in the family telling stories, singing songs. You think about it, if you go to bed on the average at 9 o'clock after you get off work, you said you worked hard. This period of time was sharecropping.
Yeah.
Basically, they was straight right after slavery. And sharecropping, you still working the fields for the white man.
For a little bit of nothing.
For a little bit of nothing. So those songs, even in the Negro slave songs and things like that, songs had a message to carry you to the next spot. Where sometimes they sung songs so they couldn't get recognized by the slave master. I know it's 2025, I'm talking about slave master, but it's gonna tie into this. So as we move along in music, and as you think about, you can be 15 years old, 16 years old, and you have that one song that you fell in love as a teenager.
Yeah.
You can still remember it as you get old, like me, 52. You can still remember
It'll take
that
you back.
song, but it take you back to that time period. I heard the song today, it took me back to the time period. I remember the little honey I was loving on when I was 16 years old. It just reminded me of her. So yeah, the music ties into it. And then if as we go along with this movie, we're going to see it just get deeper and deeper in symbolism. Sometimes things will be right in front of us we don't recognize
To see.
but he made sure at one part you recognize he just tying it together.
Everything that was going
He
on.
was tying it together. And the way as they say, precept upon precept, learn a little bit at a time. Hey, the boy, I'm telling you,
He cold. He cold.
he a cold, he a cold.
He cold.
The director wise, right, man, he's top notch. I give it to him. He's top notch.
So the music hit for me because she said she can't listen to certain things. I listen to certain music and she always telling me, and I just be like, man, it don't do nothing to me. It don't get on my subconscious or whatever. So as soon as I'm watching this film and I'm seeing the way he depicted it, I'm like, yo, this is everything my woman is telling me already. And it's in front of me in the big screen. She always say I need to see somebody else say something before I take her word for it. But I was able to see it. The time traveling thing that kind of threw me off. I mean, not threw me off, but it hit for me because I'm like, yo, the music is really powerful. Just like look at the state of the world is in right now because of the music.
Yeah.
The young men, they all want to be killers and drillers. The young lady, they're pushing this body positive as they call it, and hooker ship, really. Like they push it. Hooker ship, as I'll call it. They're pushing it.
For sure. Music is how
It's-
the message is being
Being pushed.
out. The programming is going through the message.
And it's very powerful. So for him to put that in there, I gotta applaud him on that. That was dope. It was like holding a mirror up to our people, is what I seen it.
Yeah.
That's the way to our hearts, and the way to is through the music, the beats and stuff. That was like a dope way him put it out there and showing it to us.
Yeah, and then it kind of goes back to what my dad said about
Go ahead and keep saying it.
it goes into what my dad said about church and growing up in church. The reason that I feel a certain type of way when I'm listening to something is because I know to protect what goes into my ears, what I see. So hearing certain things I know is based off of me being in church, being scared to hear certain things, allowing certain stuff into my spirit. So certain music, it makes a lot of sense to be a little cautious about what you let in because our minds are powerful, and playing something over and over again, you wonder why people go do crazy stuff that they didn't hurt.
Cause like it was saying that when they was singing, when they was outside,
It
they
kept
was like
sounding
putting
like
them
they
in
was
trance.
hypnotizing
Oh
them.
yeah, when they
So
first started trying to sing to him outside the door, it was like they was
it's like
putting them in a
think
trance.
about going to when you
Singing.
go to sleep. If anybody got the Breathe app, when it's time to go to sleep and you can listen to that and the rain puts you to the repeated sounds, that frequency can put you to sleep. Think about what this music is doing to you.
Yeah, for sure.
When we first enter the church, we get this beautiful wide shot, all white. We see the preacher is centered. He's surrounded by 3 crosses, and the framework of the church is 33 inches wide between the planks. Threes are really important here because Jesus died at 33. This also reminds us of the Trinity, precisely what we're seeing right here, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit being that of being inside a church and the congregation. Hannah Beachler, the production designer, mentioned that there is an Easter egg related to Wakanda Forever inside the church, and I haven't been able to find it. Church and the congregation. Hannah Beachler, the production designer, mentioned that there is an Easter egg related to Wakanda Forever inside the church, and I haven't been able to find it, but it might be the wooden planks making the W on the wall for Wakanda. It could also be maybe their outfits, but that feels like it's more tied to Ruth Carter for costuming. If you have more details, please let me know, Hannah Beachler. Just tell me. Right before Sammy's dad confronts him, shaking his hand at his despicable ways, we are startled by a jump scare from Remick at the end of the film when he shouts, "Sammy!" This occurs just after the preacher says, "My son." Then we see splice moments framing the preacher like Remick, intercutting more scenes from the night before. It doesn't necessarily mean they're both evil. I think it's framed to suggest we're all just sinners. Coogler mentioned in an interview with the Griot, if you point a finger at somebody calling them a sinner, you also have to point a finger back to yourself. Even the most religious person would admit that they're a sinner. Everybody is. It's a term of judgment, but it's also a term that's welcoming as well. In a Christian context, that's who Jesus spent the most time with, which is really at the heart of this movie when you pay closer attention. It's more about recognizing and understanding the lie. Delta blues, one of the earliest styles of blues music.
The sinners, you said that how we all sinners. How long was it into the movie before you picked up that that's where they was headed with, or did you pick up that they was headed with, we all sinners, the vampires and the regular folk?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that was the whole thing of it. Everybody being sinners. Just because we're a Christian doesn't mean we're not sinners. Also, we consistently sin in different ways, like every single day.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways we're sinning. Some we don't even know. Like I tell my son all the time, overeating, gluttony. Like we're sinning consistently. So I figured that. I mean, I guess it wasn't really a thought, but
Yeah.
One thing I'd say, like Smoke and Stack, twin brothers, and then they had their little cousin Sammy. Like at the train station when they met up at the train station, and his young lady friend, his young white lady friend told him told he like, oh man, here come this white woman over here. There's a white woman coming over here. One of the things that they all, even though Smoke and Stack was doing certain things, bootleg liquor, they had pulled a leg in Chicago and came back down to Mississippi. But they was all you think about, all this was happening that day. They was planning all this, how they went to go get the food, they went to go get all this for that one night experience at the juke joint. And like we all sinners, like when the young lady at the train station talked to Sandy, and she said, "Boy, I don't think you're ready for this." But she had a husband.
Yeah.
But she came to the juke joint.
But
What did he ask her? Your husband with you?
it was a lot of different signs of sinning.
Yeah.
There was the drunks.
Yeah.
It was the dancing and the secular life. It was
Gambling.
the cheating. It was so many different adultery. It was so many different. It was like they had all of them in there at once.
So yeah, it was crazy to see that when they hit him with the "We are all one." That stuck like, yo, that's crazy. Like, and then she just said, when you pointing the finger at somebody, calling them a sinner, you feel me? You got something pointing back at yourself. So I think that was a deep message for the world we in today. This is a very, very judgmental place, very judgmental planet, and everybody always got something to say about somebody else, but it's the same thing there. You point the finger at somebody, you got 3 pointing back at yourself. So I think it was dope they put that in the film.
Mississippi Delta, this natural cultural beauty can be seen in some of the earliest forms of black musical expression in America, which feels like it goes hand in hand with like gospel. Both are full of passion and at times deal with themes of salvation and damnation. The stories told through blues, primarily through black people, led to white people labeling it as devil's music. The lyrics, seen as sinful, branded them sinners. And Sammy is a lot like the legendary musician Robert Johnson, whom Kugler credited for drawing inspiration. If you don't know who Robert Johnson is, the king of Delta blues singers who sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads for his musical talent. A story so famous that it's been depicted in every form of media, from Metalocalypse to Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Though some people have favored it wasn't the devil that Johnson had met up with, but the Papa Logba, the guardian of the crossroads and the gatekeeper between the human and the spirit worlds. And he didn't really sell his soul to play music, he went in search of wisdom and guidance. If Sammy is drawn from Robert Johnson, Smoke and Stack would be considered the devil, luring him to a sinful future. Still, if the myth or history has been altered, it was actually the Papa Logba instead of the devil. So Smoke and Stack actually represent Sammy's chance and gave him the potential to be great, having offered their father's guitar and giving him his first show at the juke joint. This is what I mean when I'm talking about recognizing and understanding a lie, and this being the heart of the movie. Everyone's a sinner, it's the judgment that needs to be lifted. We're now with Smoke and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, who Kugler has mentioned in an interview before. They used twin consultants to help him in this role. They're smoking a cigarette and waiting to make their deal. Someone on Twitter had made a great connection with their real names, Elijah and Elias, which refer back to the prophet Elijah Elias. Where the prophet is one person, this could mean that they're actually two. And Elias means the word of God, and Elijah means the hand of God. And this thread is honestly pretty spot on, and I encourage you to look at it because I just don't really have enough time to talk about it in the breakdown, but they make a lot of good arguments that these could be the embodiment of the prophet Elijah. There are obvious standout colors throughout the movie, red, white, and blue making a big statement, and before the all-out vampire battle, this really does feel like an American tale, so rightfully those colors should stand out a lot in most of these shots. Blue being the color of haint blue, a color used to ward off evil spirits, and white representing purity and holiness, while red is sexy and represents life, but also blood and capitalism. We see how the colors are used on Smoke and Stack immediately when we first meet them. They fit into the movie's color themes overall. Stack is full of life, slick talking, always making money moves, while Smoke wards off every kind of evil spirit. He's extremely cautious, protective job on the wardrobe, and these pieces have so much attention to detail. The fact that Smoke's clothes fit a little bit bigger because he's always carrying guns in a holster, and Stack was a smooth talking pimp, so he looks more refined and has like a matching tie. Even down to making sure Grace's clothes reflected her Chinese American life, traditional fabrics with Mississippi touches. She wears a cross because she's still strong in her Christian beliefs. And then there's Mary, whose clothes were always a different texture than everyone else's because she doesn't go through the same hardship. She's not like them. Fun fact, Ruth was actually prepping to work on Marvel's Blade movie when it was shut down due to the writer's strike and the actor's strike, but she had done so much research on a period piece vampire movie that when Kugler's wife, who produced Sinners, reached out bridging the opportunity, Ruth was like, I'm ready. I did all the research. I'm ready. So unfortunately, I mean, I don't think this means we're gonna get a Blade movie anytime soon, but this is the next best thing. When we return to see Sammy at the church searching for his guitar, it's the same guitar that composer Ludwig Göransson actually used to create the soundtrack and record on. The table the guitar is set against reads, "In remembrance of me," a phrase from Corinthians that describes Jesus' instructions during the Lord's Supper or communion. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." The bread symbolizes sacrifice, something Sammy has been doing in his father's stead as preacher for a long time. They set up this shot deliberately to remind us of their ongoing feud between religion and blues and how it was demonized, and offer the idea that the two are technically pretty close and linked together. Then he has Sammy read 1 Corinthians 10:13, which emphasizes that we are not alone in facing temptations, and God will provide the resources and support we need to overcome them, furthering the idea that Sammy's music is sinful, but nothing unbeatable. We learn that the twins were working for Al Capone in Chicago, but also telling Sammy there's no difference between Chicago and Mississippi, just bigger buildings instead of plantations. The Chicago to Mississippi link should remind us of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black boy who was born and raised in Chicago, who was kidnapped and brutally murdered after being accused of offending a white woman in Mississippi Delta area. His death was in 1955, and to this day, we remember and talk about it. This also reflects the Great Migration, where 6 million black Americans moved from the South to the North seeking better lives and escaping racism and violence. Many moved from Mississippi directly north by train to Chicago. Now, Smoke and Stack didn't follow the Great Migration per se. They fought in World War I before going to Chicago. Through the Sinners album on Spotify, you'll actually find images and news clippings of their escapades in Chicago. Gang tensions with the Irish mob and Italian mafia that Mary deduces from the stolen liquor. There's even a clipping from 1911, years earlier, about a Celtic ship with Irish immigrants slaughtered, alluding to Remick's arrival. Regardless, we see how stories travel to Sammy of the great city of Chicago when in reality, the long history of violence towards black people had never really necessarily ended there or in Mississippi. Smoke and Stack have been hiding their stolen Irish and Italian beer behind some brush off the road. Inside their hiding spot, there's a rattlesnake eyeing and darting at Sammy immediately. Fortunately, Smoke stabs the snake, severing a chunk of its head from its body. I don't even know if I can show this, but you remember that scene. This sequence foreshadows the big blowout where Smoke drives a stake into Remick before killing Sammy. The visuals parallel are just so similar, even between Smoke cutting a chunk out of the snake's neck with Stack's blade, like Sammy slamming the silver into Remick's head. Again, I don't know if I can show that, but if I can, good on you. We recognize the comparison between snakes and vampires also. Both are seen as evil. Snakes shed their skins, becoming new like vampires' initial death and resurrection. Additionally, you know, the vampire's Irish and these are snakes. I mean, that's on the nose, but I get it. Now we entered the town. The first sign I noticed was the tamale shop, and I wondered, why are there tamales? At a certain point in the early
Was it tamale?
Before we get to that too, that scene, he was telling him, let's not do it now, let's do it next week.
Yeah.
If they would have had some patience and did it the next week, the following week, they would have been more prepared and this situation wouldn't have occurred. Like the whole, you know, the vampires coming, they wouldn't have been in that building that night. Also, the Ku Klux Klan wouldn't have been plotting on them that night because they wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So the lack of patience that one brother had led the other brother to his demise. So that was that scene.
Well, you think about it, they had came from Chicago. They were from Mississippi, but they came from Chicago. They was moving fast in Chicago. They wasn't moving like that in Mississippi. So I know you saying, well, they had come from Chicago. They messing with Capone. They messing all these different things. They coming to get their money right now, today, tonight. Even though that's, you come.
'Cause, they make it to where the brother that was the slick talking, talk fast, he was like, let's do it right now. And the brother that was more laid back, protective is like, let's wait and make sure it go good by doing it later. So.
And then one thing about that, how the brothers knew they had been doing a lot of different stuff. And one moment in the movie, he told little Sammy, said, "It's your last night, you gonna be here."
Yeah.
Before it all jumped off, he said, "It's your last night, you gonna be here." Sammy said, "Well, I'm finna go on a roll. I'm finna go,
Yeah.
So, a lot of, I say, Christians that come and go into the world of R&B, rap, whatever type of music they doing. Back then and now it's still the same thing. Everyone that's in the music industry comes from church.
Yeah.
They struggle with having the gift to sing, the gift to do that. They struggle with not going in the world and making a certain amount of money and staying with the church and doing that. Sammy was having that same struggle. He was gifted in playing the guitar. His father wanted him to stay in the church. Sammy wanted to go see the world. He wanted to play blues. The devil's music.
What was daddy telling him?
The devil
coming
that's
tonight.
the devil bridge. He
So
said
the devil coming tonight.
What his
So
father
knocking on the
his
devil's
father said,
door.
one day
The devil gonna get
the devil gonna follow you. You keep on knocking on the door. The devil gonna follow you home.
That was cool.
That was a saying.
That
But-
hit for me too.
Yeah.
Because it was like, man, like a couple of months ago, like I really, really wanted to get back into the going out and, trying to do for, even if it was just for my content. I kept saying that, like, yo, it's just for my content and stuff like that. And when I would go out, I feel people, I feel energy and stuff like that. And it's killing me being outside now because everybody negative energy, I can feel it and stuff and it don't feel cool, whatever. So like, I had to really check myself on that. And again, that's something else that my mama would tell me all the time that I had to go out there and experience myself. Like, yeah, man, I could feel all the energy and stuff like that. And that's what it was for that scene too. Like when that scene they was going through, all the different energies and the stuff that the music and stuff was playing and all the music was making different energies and coming out of people and stuff like that. I feel like that's what it's like when you out.
If you just stand in the middle of the room and you look around, it's the craziest stuff going on. Do you really belong there?
Not at all, man. It's like all kind of music. Everybody who dealing with stuff and they coming out with that. If you really tapped in and vibrating, you feeling that. You what do they say? 8 feet, your vibrations go out 8 feet. Somebody can be 8 feet away from you with a thug vibration and fuck up your vibration just by walking past it and dealing with them and exchanging energy with them. You feel me? So that was insane. I just felt that was crazy.
You know, one of the things before we get to the next day, one of the things too, I have experienced that being out and in a club. And I'm like, man, I didn't really want to go to the club, but I won just when I was younger. And I go in the club, I'm just sitting and cats fighting. I mean, a fight break out. Cats fighting, glass being thrown, people, all this stuff is going on around me. And I'm just sitting like, man,
I was just thinking,
God. Yeah, man. And I like to go out, you like to go out and listen to some music or whatever like that. But as far as the young part of it, and I don't knock it because everyone has to go through it. You have to get it out of you.
Yeah.
You
you can't start young.
Yeah,
too, like,
you got to get it out of you. And that was one of the things too, from whether it be in the years we are now or back then. You need a release.
Yeah.
You all day, like he told his mother, I made my quota.
Yeah, I've
He
been
made this quota.
Yeah.
Picking cotton.
Mm.
Come on, let it's 2025, but you talk about picking damn cotton on the sharecroppers. So he made his quota. And one thing about it, they were trying to make money, right? But you remember when the dude came in
with the wooden,
he had the wood. He said, man, that's gonna be 50% or whatever.
So they had, the thing is, it seems as if each plantation had its own kind of currency.
Yeah.
So people in here paying with a currency that I can only use here.
Man, that's the thing. That's how cold them Wahites was back then. You feel me?
But that actually, if you think about it, is deeper than that. Because imagine how many people you know from your city that ain't never been nowhere else. They have money in this currency that they can go anywhere, but their mind is only here. They have not left. They will not leave. This is where they'll die at.
So they like, shit, my money good.
Those people, they was fine with their money being fine in this area in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to go nowhere anyways.
They were trying to get the dollar that they was getting in Chicago.
The brother like,
She literally said it. He like, yo, this money ain't gonna do you no good on nowhere else. She like, I'm fine with this money in this area.
Yeah.
And that is still happening to us today. There's so many people that don't want to see nothing else.
no plans are going nowhere like
It's
that.
it's still a plantation. It's just a different form.
It's people with money to leave. Like it's people really with money and ain't ever been nowhere though. Like they go to Vegas.
I got everything I want right here.
Yeah, that's insane. Let's see what we got
here. At a certain point in the early 20s, the US government was bringing in anybody and everybody to pick cotton, and that included Mexican nationals who didn't speak English. Because Mexican people had to pick 500 pounds a day, they kept working, and tamales were an easy meal. It became popular, and since the 20s, tamales have been rocking with us because we're rocking with tamales. I love tamales. It's also so tough to see this, but they have a WQBC broadcasting station that was first licensed in Utica, Mississippi, and later moved to Vicksburg. It's just an old school radio station that I noticed immediately. This is where we meet Li Shun Li and Yao's Bo Chow. For those that don't know, Chinese immigrants originally came to the Delta to work in the cotton fields. After slavery ended, plantation owners could no longer rely on the free labor of enslaved people, so they sought out the Chinese workers, whom they viewed as inexpensive and politically powerless. However, the work in the fields was short-lived due to low wages and harsh conditions, and many eventually opened grocery stores, and during segregation, they served the black community when the white community wouldn't. Thus, they found themselves in a unique position, neither entirely accepted by white nor black communities. And Bo's actor spoke to the fact, using their dialect as an example of them occupying a middle ground. He said, because of her, Grace's association with white people, she would take on more of their dialect, and I would take on the dialect of black people. That spoke to them having two stores. There would be that subtle code switching that immigrants do and what Chinese people have to do wherever they go. While Stack and Sammy venture to their next errand, he mentions having Charlie Patton's guitar. Some would call him the father of Delta blues. His music supplied a great foundation for other blues players like Robert Johnson, whom I spoke about earlier, Muddy Waters, and Howlin' Wolf. We learn at the end of the movie that this was all a big fat lie and the guitar actually belonged to their daddy. Sammy begins singing Travelin', our first time hearing Miles Catton sing, and it's phenomenal. We've learned in interviews that Miles actually performs and tours with the incredible musician Her, and she was the one who encouraged him to audition for this role, so thank God. God bless. Older Sammy, played by Buddy Guy, performs again for Stack. We're led to the Clarksdale train station, and during this scene, you can see that there's a train in the background that says Pullman. Pullman trains actually played a significant role during the Great Migration when millions of black Americans moved from the South to the North and the West. Pullman porters were mainly black, but they were still underpaid, overworked, and endured constant racism. But the porters regularly traveled the country and transported black newspapers and other vital information to black communities. Their hardships and victories later laid the foundation for black workers and labor unions during the civil rights movement. This is where we meet the phenomenal actor that's Delroy Lindo, who plays my favorite person in the movie, Delta Slim. He's so deep in playing this character, a heartfelt musician who's lived a million lives. His voice, with its scratchy tone, conveys his long life, sharing more about his past before he even has to do it. During their small performance, we meet Jamie Lawson's Pearline, who you might recognize from The Batman and the Penguin. She plays the mayor of Gotham, Bella Real. She absolutely sweeps Sammy off his feet with one look, and us as well. Then we meet Mary's Haley Steinfeld, who might be in her best performance yet. I'll tell her that. The trio passes a chain gang of black prisoners, and this is when Slim tells us the sad story of losing his friend who was falsely accused of stealing and raping a white man's wife, to which the Klan lynched him and cut off his manhood. Before that, he spoke about how he and Rice played for white people at their big houses, and he said, see, white folks, they like the blues just fine, they just don't like the people who made it. Which brings us back to how the blues was branded as devil music and for sinners. We talk about this again where Delta Slim mentions the blues wasn't forced on us like that religion. We brought this back with our own. So we're faced with the conflict between religion and the blues again in that judgment. I think it's clearly a very depressing story of Rice, but we actively see how Delta Slim handles that feeling, which I think is a great snippet captured. This man loves music, it's in his soul, and he uses it to liberate himself and find some form of relief. Where I run and cry and hide, he feels and plays, and I think that's just a really gorgeous thing to capture. They eventually pick up Cornbread, played by Omar Benson Miller. Yes, he absolutely provides some comedic relief during this movie, but this is an astounding actor. He and his family were working picking cotton trying to meet their quota. And if you haven't noticed by now, they've taken full advantage of these vast areas of land. They began production in New Orleans and spread to many locations across Louisiana, including Donaldsonville, Braithwaite, where the majority of the movie takes place, and St. Bernard Parish, where Annie's house is located. Annie's house, especially the doorways, like her outfit, is in blue, and they call it haint blue, which in hoodoo is used to ward off evil spirits. Along with everything else she's wearing, her beads, mojo bag, the leather belt, her blade, she's armored in her beliefs. Annie practices voodoo. They're connected to like voodoo, but distinct in terminology, referring to the African diaspora religions and the West African religion from which they derive. I basically consider them different.
You always say this, baby, that they told us when we got here that witchcraft and voodoo and all that was bad, but that's kind of what we was practicing over there before we brought here. So what are your thoughts on that? And did you pick that up in the movie, how they was like pushing it kind of, this is what we was doing, this was our original?
Well, yeah, I seen that was like something they were not scared of. I think that it is put in movies and everything, like even in Princess and the Frog. They're like, I hope you wasn't down there messing with them hoodoo or the voodoo man. They put it in all these movies to make sure to stay away. Be scared, be frightened. It's programming just like the music we listen to now. Now, I don't know anything about it because I was raised Christian. But I think with any religion, we have to dial back into it's all the same source. So in the Bible, it says God's coming back after one church. So if I think about like hoodoo and voodoo, is that something that he can come back to me for after I do it? So that
Your
is
thoughts on
that.
Now the hoodoo, this is what keeps. This probably go to the left of it. This is one thing that keep a lot of black men out of church, because slavery and Christianity, it was before slavery, but most black men associate that the white man forced Christianity on us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not from Africa. I'm not from Africa. Ancestor-wise, yes. But now that we're here, if you strip someone of their land and you make sure they don't speak their language, you think about it. I know we finna go in the deep hole. When slaves first came here, they was able to speak their language. First thing, they mixed them up. Every
Everybody can't
African
communicate.
don't speak the same language, dialect, right? So they did that. They did a lot of different things, symbolism, to make sure that you mind.
It's depicted in, if you guys want to watch, it's depicted in the Book of Negroes also.
Yeah. And then the hoodoo was, she was using it for, what was that, stacks or smoke? That was,
She messed with Smoke.
yeah, she was for Smokes. So Smokes, he had it around, he had some stuff around his neck that helped him out. At the same time, that tradition and tradition plays a part in religion. This had a lot of religious things up in it. But one thing I want to point out, I'm not going to dive too deep into religion because everyone's faith is different.
Yeah.
And you got to have a straight relationship one-on-one with God. But one thing that I did see, yeah, I'm gonna get to my boy Delta Slim. One thing that I did see as far as the religious part of it, right? He made sure the movie made you look at how young people struggle with having that Christian walk and being in the world too. Yeah. That's a struggle. That's a struggle. Whether it was then, whether today. Now Delta Slim, he played the harmonica. He hustled for beer and liquor.
Because he cared more. When he said, "I'll give you $20," he didn't care about that.
Yeah, $40. Yeah, but what he said though, he said,
Man, you in town for one night. I'm gonna make $20 a night. He said, I've been messing with somebody every Saturday for the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Economics. Economics plays a big part now, plays a big part then. If I'm getting $10 every Saturday night,
yeah, I'm cool.
right, for the last 10 years, but you want to give me $20 for tonight.
I can't.
And think about it. If he would have stayed loyal to the people he'd been going to, he would have still
He
been.
would have been alive.
In the sense that voodoo emerged in the Americas, blending African traditions. Many enslaved Africans did believe in the protective powers of hemp blue, and the pigment was made from crushed indigo plants, but in South Carolina, they used indigo as a cash crop similar to cotton to produce dye, and the Hayne house, built on St. Bernard Parish, was also once a real plantation, so Annie's home already comes with a layered past. As everyone makes their way to the juke joint, I like that Grace is dressed like Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter became a symbol around the 1940s after the movie's time, but has always represented women in the workforce, and Grace is a working woman. She makes the signs, every sign in the store, I assume all the signs in town. She's an artist, owns the market, and is a mother. Ruth said that the looks are part of the stories, and hers is that she's a working woman. Then we meet Jack O'Connell's Remick. Jack O'Connell we'll see again in 28 years later, but you may recognize him from Skins. Good for Jack O'Connell. We're also introduced to his soon-to-be bandmates Joan and Bert. This is Lola Kirk and Peter Dramanis, and if I pronounce your last name Peter, I am so sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce it, and I could not find you saying your last name in interviews. Both musicians have illustrious musical careers. A lot of the actors in this movie are musicians first, which is unsurprising. Outside Joan and Bert's home, 3 vultures are flying overhead, and we see them again near the juke joint later. These vultures are often seen as a negative symbol, typically foreshadowing death or impending disaster. This reflects the fact that both the juke joint and Joan and Bert's home will soon be devastated by a vampire. The vultures are also depicted during the wood carving scene when discussing the Irish filly, highlighting the danger that Femic brings. The 2 races were worn by the Choctaw people, and if you remember my breakdowns from Echo, I've discussed the Choctaw people before. And their land spans like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, a lot of the South. In this context, the man is speaking the Choctaw language, which is incredible. Also, they did a favor by trying to help those races. If Remick saw the KKK hood, I'm sure they did too. So honestly, good on them for leaving after trying one time to help you, but they did a favor and you didn't even listen, so whatever. Then we jump. We're gonna jump in this breakdown to the euphoric performance, the performance. The layers created here might have been the best meal I've ever had in a movie theater. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's almost too hard to describe. There's something about hearing tales and believing them when you know it's just fiction, but getting the opportunity to breathe it and see it all just feels so rapturous. It's the individual reflections of every single person in the room's past and future, spirits and ancestors bleeding into the scene so smoothly. It's the beats changing for each time period or culture, and music is a universal form of expression or sound, and I just love how they depict that here. Sammy's music conjured the spirits of everyone within the juke joint, not just black people. It's so specific that the first person we see is the Zulu dancer, who moves in a cyclone just like Pearline directly behind her, and this may be her ancestral link. Then we see the Sangali Zalem player. Of course, we get the Bootsy Collins looking ass futuristic one, and I love that the futuristic one could also just be someone from the band Parliament. Then we gotta look at the DJ, this 70s ass DJ with Run DMC glasses and chain. In the middle of the dance floor is the classic 80s fashion. We get a b-boy in white tracksuit and LL Cool J hat. As the camera moves past the DJ again, we catch sight of what I think is actually the West African griot playing their drums, and all of this is shot on a steady cam. The camera then moves to the kitchen where we have girls twerking, and to be that woman, God, I wish I could have auditioned. We then follow Grace, who gradually passes the Cali dancers in long white tees. Actually, this may be more specifically to like LA dancers. The twang on the beat that comes in, the G-Funk whistle is very nothing but a G thing. It's Cali drip regardless. We see men in the same outfit, but with red bandanas at the roulette table, so this could be people from both the red and blue groups, which is kind of cool to do. Then, by the grace of Grace and Bo, we see the Chinese kunchi performer in her long water sleeves and the mythological monkey king Sun Wukong from Chinese opera. Yao, who plays Bo Chow, was asked by the creative team if there were any iconic figures that the Asian diaspora would recognize. He wanted to name someone who would be known by people from Vietnam and the Philippines, not only China, so it had to be Sun Wukong. Playing the character, this is a martial artist performer who's familiar with the opera dance movements of the Monkey King, and honestly, God bless. The spirit in the mask is a Gola masked Poro dancer, and the woman in red, who resembles a ballerina, is actually an Alvin Ailey dancer. There are so many types of dancers and spirits, and collectively they all burn the house down. When the camera pulls back to the exterior, the scene is captured using a 50-foot techno crane. This shot reveals the characters dancing amidst the backdrop of the burned mill, while also showing Remick, Joan, and Bert watching from the outside. It's interesting to see how the vampires, mainly Remick, return after almost being burned alive in the sun. He wore suspenders along with a belt, which was a deliberate choice. Belts had recently become a significant fashion trend. Not to say that they didn't exist before, but they were seen as more of a fashion statement now, and this quirky style truly represents Remick's character. There's a small moment during the cross-cutting conversations of Mary and Stack and Smoke and Sammy where Smoke tells Sammy about a
I think I related to us, if you believe in that, dying and continuously coming back until we get it together. Because it could be, these are these people reincarnated again, doing the same things again. The people playing at the dice table, and then the people playing at the poker table or whatever table they were playing at for the time period in the, what was that supposed to be, the 30s?
30s.
And then the Crip Walkers, and then it was somebody else, like regular dancing for the 30s. It could have been looked at as that. Like, these are us doing the same things over and over and over again until we get it right. That's what I got from that scene. Even they had people from the 30s looking like they was twerking in the same area with the twerkers of today. It's like these are all the same things repeating itself until we get it right. Not saying that it's anything wrong with music and dancing. I'm not gonna say it's not anything wrong with gambling, because we should know that it is. But it showed like so many different aspects of that. If you believe in reincarnation, that you are redoing stuff over and over again, just a different form for a different time.
That scene spoke to me. Like I said, the whole being in that environment, so many things were conjured up, and then like you said, his particular song conjured up different time zones and all kind of different stuff. So it spoke to me. It screamed at me. It was my favorite part of the movie. It made me really sit and reflect life and everything.
Very
I got.
powerful scene.
It was a very, very powerful scene. So shout out to that brother for bringing that out.
Even them using the word conjuring for that scene,
Because
because that's what spoke to the demon in that vampire.
the vampires were sitting outside. Was like, yeah, man, we liked your song. We really like that.
He said, "I came for you."
I
Like
came
that.
because of that.
I don't want to call no demons,
but like us having those conversations that you was like, yo, this music you be listening to, and I'm like, look, it's just music to me.
It's not, and for me, it ain't just music. It's so much more to it. Like how I feel inside when I listen to something has to make sense for me.
Yeah.
It can't make me uncomfortable. It can't make my spirit uneasy. Because for me, that's the sign that I'm being
What are you
told,
conjuring up?
turn this off.
What is you making come into
Yo,
your
what?
life by just listening to
I
stuff
know
over and
people.
over
I
and
know
over?
people that have died, and in their songs, prior to them dying, they said things like, "I'm gonna die this way," or "I'm gonna do this, this, and that," and then those things truly happen to them.
Yeah.
So I think, just like in the Bible it says about our tongue being powerful, we have to watch what we say and watch what we are listening to somebody else say, because all we doing is making that song so powerful because we're repeating it
Over and over and
and
over.
then think about how many people in the world is repeating it and putting power behind that song.
You know they spell.
It's
or words
terrifying.
that spell. Yeah.
We spelling,
Yeah.
we're saying spell. So the aspect of them putting the hoodoo in here in the Bible, we're saying scriptures to ourselves too. Like we're kind of casting spells also. There was a scripture that a man said that helped him free himself of cancer. So I heard that at my uncle's funeral. So I've said the same scripture over myself, and for a whole bunch of months didn't feel sick. So for me, you know, it's that's why I say it's all one church for the most part, because we are also saying spells, so we can't be judgy about what someone else believes in.
Yeah. What did this thing do for you, Pops? How did you?
One of the things that it did was the innocence, and not only Sammy. Sammy was a preacher boy.
Yeah.
Just like the Five Heartbeats and all this, a preacher boy. Not only was Sammy a preacher boy, when they showed the different parts of the dancing, right? The innocence of the Crips and Bloods getting started off gang banging against each other. The Crips and Blood was created to protect after the 1965 LA riots. They was gonna be in the streets and make sure the police don't come do nothing to our people. That's where it originally came from. So the innocence of that, the innocence of rap music, the innocence of singing. When people get into rapping, they don't get into doing all the damn Puff Daddy shit, pause. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They don't get to for that. They don't even they just get into it for the love of the music. I come from hip hop for real. 1978 was the first rap song that I heard. Rappers Delight, 1978. So the rap music didn't start off like that, but it's the situations that's in the community. Things was happening. They wasn't reporting in 1978. Was there shootings? Somewhat. It wasn't drive-bys. Was there stabbings? Was there fights at block parties? All those things was going on, but it wasn't reported. Now you fast forward to our time.
Our time is
You have
somebody get shot, they run.
You have everybody got a camera. They want to be the person to put it on YouTube and to put it on TikTok and to put it whatever they do to get views and to get clicks. But the movie show is deeper. One of the things too. Then I'm gonna shut up. One of the things too is when the vampires was sitting out while he was performing, burning the house down. These white executives let these boys get out here and be destructive to the world.
Yeah.
And they make sure they got insurance on them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll burn down their house and they just sit back and reap the benefits and get the publishing and get the money and all these different things. Not only just music. In the world, when you have someone that's in a higher stature, he sits back and just watches workers.
Yeah.
And whether you evolve, whether you become a foreman or whether you become the person that's always late and have an excuse. It's the innocence in that. So they just sitting back on the log. I know everybody heard that. Look, you just sitting back. They sitting back on the log, just watch.
Just watch. Yeah, that was called. Fire scene. I think that scene was a cherry on top of the movie for me.
It was the prediction of what was about to come.
Cherry on top of the movie for me.
real location. It's the independent black community in Mound Bayou in Mississippi, founded in 1887 by former slaves. After being shooed away, the trio starts singing Will You Go, Lassie Go, or Wild Mountain Time, if you want to call it that. One of the earlier clues that Remick is Irish. It's revealed throughout the movie through his Irish dancing, his accent wavering between Southern and Irish, and at the end where he speaks about a man who took his land that he's from Ireland. Remick's actor, Jack O'Connell, spoke to The Hollywood Reporter on the inclusion in the film saying, I think because Remick comes from a time way back because of his nature and this sort of almost immortality, it was important for Ryan to attach it to something ancient, something historic, the Irish struggle and its search for freedom. He goes on to say the migrating Irish and Scottish people that were bringing their traditional music with them, which made me really think it's important to note that Remick probably comes from a time where racism didn't really exist, or he just never really saw it, so he assuredly is confused and hates it. Coogler loves writing his villains as both empathetic and tragic. Killmonger, Damien from Creed 3, Remick, due to their past, complex motivations or reasoning, they're just not wrong, but in their actions, they're certainly not right. Before Remick pounces on Mary, Coogler incorporates some rather typical vampire traits. The vampire can fly or hover, for example. We also witness traditional movie vampire defenses. They must be invited in, garlic harms them, stakes and silver can actually seriously hurt them. What I mentioned earlier,
That must be invited in. That was another thing that was really spoke out, jumped out to me. But it wasn't vampires. I didn't correlate that to vampires. I just correlated it to evil. Like, yeah, you had to invite those vampires in. You couldn't just. We invite a lot of evil into our life, and I feel like that's something we should have took from that. Like, man, you have to
Him going into that space, he invited whatever was gonna come with that night.
Yeah,
His daddy told him not to do it. Even with our parents, if we don't listen to our parents, it always something happens.
yeah.
I can remember back to times not listening to my parents. I ended up having to call them at the end of the night because something didn't happen
Invited.
because I invited this space to come into my space because I did exactly what I was supposed to do. So him knowing better, I shouldn't be in this space. Look what comes.
You invited in, so I just that was dope. It ain't just your house when you saying inviting evil in. Hey,
Show
come in.
temple.
It's everything, your whole world. Watch what you invite into your world.
And that goes back to what you listen to also. Because if you're inviting it into your brain, your mind, we don't even know how minds really work sometimes. Like, think about how people deal with trauma and everything. Your mind does so much stuff. So some people can go to sleep listening to stuff. I believe that you're not supposed to go to sleep letting things go into your subconscious. I don't know how my mind works. I don't want nothing working, doing its thing while I'm sleeping. So inviting things into your space, inviting things into your home, inviting things, people, like, because these are modern day demons right now, is the people around you.
That's what the vampires was. That's what I was getting.
Like
it's vampires, but it's like
I think that's why showing it as, because we see vampires in most movies, they white.
yeah.
In this movie,
Most movies they white.
in this movie, we got some black vampires, people they knew, faces that were familiar for them, make them harder to kill because I know these people.
People let their guards down
So
when it was coming.
look how hard it was for him to get rid of his brother. He's a vampire now. He's no longer your brother, but
And we got people. You got vampires in your life, baby.
you got vampires walking with you all the time. Demonic people, people with spirits that are not right for you around you all the time. So I think the movie
And
said
they're
a
not
lot to that.
necessarily demonic, but just people who you
Leeches.
are not
People that don't, people that don't mean you well. So
Yeah.
instead of looking at it as vampires and all of this, like, think about how that can correlate with your life today. It is really scary to just invite people into your space. It's a lot of going on right now in the world. We see it on Facebook every single day, Instagram every single day. A lot of people are being killed by their friends.
Yeah, every day. These kids is the YUNs is celebrating the Back Door movement, the snake slime you out and all of that.
Yeah, it's a rapper that he listens to, and I heard him say something like that, like, me and my friends don't trust each other or something. Like,
How you friend? You don't trust.
so watch what you invite into your space because they are teaching you to be okay with having people you can't trust around you right now. That is part of the program.
It's heavily being pushed for sure. So, wait.
Oh, Daddy.
On that part there, one of the things, like the movie has so much, man. We could be speaking about something that we haven't even got to yet. But like I said, Delta Slim, And then it was some funny parts in the movie too.
Yeah.
Like when he ran into cornbread.
Yeah.
He told
Cornbread.
cornbread picked his sweat. You think about it. You in Mississippi back in 1932 with them overalls on, with the hot sun. I've been in Mississippi. Like she said on one of the scenes, I've been through Vicksburg, Mississippi. And my partner called his auntie. His auntie was 85. He said, Auntie, guess where I'm at? I'm going through Mississippi. She said, nigga, keep on driving. She said, I left Mississippi a long time ago. Most people from Mississippi, a lot of people from Mississippi that left Mississippi don't go back. There's a reason why they don't go back. I'm talking about the older people. And I think based, looking at this movie, I think it is deeper than just it was a bad time.
Yeah.
What do you feel about inviting having to invite people in your circle, your circumference, not just your home in general?
Well, in general, everyone has heard, no matter how old you are, about inviting people into your space. Like when your mama told you, you should know when your friends don't mean you no good.
Mm-hmm.
You have some friends and some people that come into your life that will encourage negativity off the top. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let's do this. Let's sit back and wait and knock that old woman in the head to take her purse. Back in the day, before y'all was born, the worst thing you could be is a purse snatcher. That's what Negroes, used to do sometimes.
Niggas do it now.
Also, cat burglars.
Yeah, outside of that, you run and knock over an old woman and take her purse, right? So that's kind of off the thing.
It's crazy. They know they do that now.
But inviting certain people into, like, man, you know what? You should know, and if you don't know, hopefully you'll know eventually. You should know when somebody's coming. Like, man, this person has no good for me. It's like if you like apples, I'm gonna keep it simple. If you like apples and someone comes tell you apple is horrible, you should eat apples. It's all about oranges. And your dumb ass say, yeah, it is all about oranges. But you love apples. Keep eating apples. Keep eating apples. That's the thing we do. Sometimes getting on to the next hot thing ain't always a great thing to do.
Yeah.
To jump on the bandwagon, as they say, back in my day. Jumping on the bandwagon and jumping on the next hot thing and just like the blues at that time in the 30s, the blues that was it was created there. Hip hop. Why do you think he used hip hop? Hip hop was created in New York. It wasn't a music that white folks made. We made that out the ground. The blues from the Delta was made out the ground from hard-working sharecroppers. And you sit back and you just talk about your life.
They said they love it, so that's the same thing for they said they love the blues. They just don't like the people.
They just don't like the people that made
hip hop. They just don't like the people who make it.
Yeah, and then now it's like hip hop, the blues, and everything. You hear the storytelling, and when you listen to the older versions of it, now we hear it as
because these people is telling stories.
They telling stories.
They telling stories. They telling who they shot.
It's still storytelling. It's just a different form of it now.
Yeah.
It's just like bringing it back to what I said about the reincarnating and doing it over again. You never know. Are these musicians doing it over again? And each time it's getting worse because we listened to someone that said that like you come back and each time gets harder. Each time gets worse. So are they coming back and I still love music, but the storytelling is getting worse and worse.
Don't know. Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
Them. When I mentioned earlier there were elements that worked for me and didn't work for me, this is one of the ones that fell kind of short for me. After spending an hour developing their world and stories, it just felt kind of disappointing to revert back to basic vampire tropes. This contributed to my perception of the horror element. It feels less terrifying and somewhat lackluster in that regard. That's the annoying movie critic in me speaking, but overall, I've seen this movie 3 times for a reason. I'm obsessed with it. It resonates with me, so take it by, grain of salt. Grain of salted. I spent a lot of time wondering if the eyes were done practically or in VFX. According to Ryan Coogler and Fangoria magazine, it's a lot of practical. This is called tapetum lucidum. This is what animals have, like what we see with deers with their eyes and headlights. There's a reflective layer behind the retina that acts like a mirror bouncing light back, and they worked with a woman who made eye contacts for the movie to accomplish this. Their eyes are different in appearance too. Yes, Remy's are red, but Stack's are purple during the Irish dance number, and Mary's, after biting Stack, feel like a lighter green, which at first I suspected was on account of maybe the length of their turning, but that still doesn't answer why Stacks are purple or blue sometimes, and Bo's are like a light gray? I know this is a ridiculous argument, a ridiculous case I'm about to make right now. I know it, but this is a vampire movie, so maybe it's not so crazy. Doesn't this remind us all of Samuel L. Jackson requesting his lightsaber to be purple for Mace Windu? He asked George Lucas if he could make his lightsaber purple, to which George Lucas said, good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. Both Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are super nerds, and this would pay homage to Samuel L. Jackson and add another sci-fi element to the story. I don't know if it's the case, but it could also symbolize Black Panther, another Coogler joint that starred Michael B. Jordan. I'll also add that different lighting is applied for the interior and exterior shots, depending on their contact lenses and how much Coogler decided to enhance them for a moment. It could reflect the tone a little differently. I think Remy's and Stack's were intentional, again, coming back to the red, white, and blue standout colors in the entire movie. Additionally, red and blue make purple, so even if his eyes are purple, it's still aligned and connected to the standout colors for the film. We then hear Pale Pale Moon sung by Pearline, and the beat complements the movie's actions nicely. I've never danced to a man being stomped on the ground before. The sequence has some great crosscuts between what both twins are doing right now, which I don't think I can show, especially what Stack is doing at this point. But match my freak, Michael B. Jordan. Why did you do that scene? This is such a freak movie. This is a movie for freakazoids, and that's why we all like it, because we're freakos. After shooting Cornbread in the face and watching his undead brother sprint out, we get another excellent scene, in my opinion, Remy's performance of the traditional Irish song Rocky Road to Dublin, Under Thunderous Clouds. He's got everyone dancing in clockwise and counterclockwise motion. Jack O'Connell has spoken about it plenty of times, how he used to do Irish dancing as a child, and he got someone to help him get back into it for the movie. This scene took me by literal storm. Ryan Coogler talked about liking Irish music, and I'm so glad I'm not the only black person that does. My favorite part of the dance is the group just rushing to him at the end, something we do to gas each other up. He just wants peace, music, and family, but it's just not consensual. When Remy confronts them while they're inside the juke joint, it's a great scene depicting Remy's nature to empathize with them immediately. This empathy is rooted in his past in Ireland, where his land and his home were taken away from him. He doesn't want to see them broken or divided. Instead, he seeks to build them up. He sees himself on the same battlefield and intends to provide them with the resources to fight back, but at the same time, he desires Sammy's music. He understands they're dying when he turns them, yet he also relieves them of their inhibitions. He fails to recognize that in doing all of this, he is compromising their freedom, and Remy is a complex character, I get it, and it's just frustrating that he doesn't see himself as just another white man perpetuating the actions of a white man during Jim Crow. Eventually, the vampires make it to the juke joint, and all thanks to Grace. I don't want to blame Grace for all of this, but girl, you kinda did it. In the ensuing fight, we lose Annie, Grace, Delta Slim, and Pearline. When Annie dies, Mary reacts so viscerally, and I take this moment as evidence that their authentic selves are still in there. What I really like about this is Remy's bite only slightly transformed them physically. Yeah, they have basic vampire skills and weaknesses, but he really just relieved them of their ambitions. When the final battle between Smoke and Stack and Sammy and Remy began, between raging transitions, this music feels like it's a rock opera. It's very dramatic. Once Remy catches Sammy, they both begin the Lord's Prayer from Matthew 6 to 6:13. This is the prayer, or at least the one that I slightly remember. It basically encourages us to follow God's will, avoid temptation, and ask for his protection against Satan. While Smoke and Stack continue to wrestle, Stack tries to bite Smoke, but Annie's mojo bag continues to keep him safe. You can see it like vibrating off to stop him. Luckily, Smoke saves the day, and Sammy, like I mentioned with the snake earlier from the beginning shot, was foreshadowing. Remy's life as we know it ends in a tornado of flames with instrumental of Rocky Road to Dublin playing as he's lifted to the sky. With Sammy and Smoke left behind, Sammy walks to his father's church as Smoke attempts to roll a cigarette. We see the past snippets, some moments we didn't even see in the movie yet, as everyone prepares for the juke joint's grand opening, and I love that the men are highlighted in blue tones. We all reminisce about the past and those now dead and gone, which is why I believe he removes the mojo bag and he's ready for the end, but he's not going out so easily. You can see his military helmet, the grenades, all around military grade weapons. This model of gun is the 1918 Browning automatic rifle, or BAR for short. This was used a lot during World War II and the Korean War, but it was also used in late 1918 during World War I. The helmet is also a very World War I item. Unlike the WW2 helmet, the brim is more extended and flatter. We get more cross-cutting between Smoke and Sammy. Sammy confronts his father and Smoke kills the KKK. Both moments serve as juxtapositions illustrating how they face different monsters from their past before moving forward in life. There's this excellent shot of Smoke rising from the trees and brush like he's back in the war. Then he gets out a Tommy gun, which is, very Al Capone, very Chicago. Though we read this as Smoke dying and moving on, he's holding his baby and he's with Miss Annie. In the end, we see older Sammy in Chicago, Illinois on October 16th, 1992, the same day the horror film Candyman was released in theaters, a movie about a hook-handed killer who appears in the mirror after you say his name 5 times. But it also explores themes of racism and social inequality, and the movie is set in, you guessed it, Chicago. Older Sammy is played by Buddy Guy, a blues guitarist and singer known for the Chicago blues, an 8-time Grammy winner who heavily influenced generations of other great musicians like Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, and Jimmy Page. His band is named Pearline after his first love. Then we see 90s Mary and Stack, still together, still thriving. You might remember these sweaters, these beautifully designed sweaters. Michael B. Jordan is rocking the 1990s Krugi the Gambler sweater, in case you're looking for it. If you stayed for the very end, the post-credit scene, you saw Miles Caden, who played Sammy in his father's church, singing This Little Light of Mine. Sinners was a great film for me. I believe Ryan Coogler has proven once again that he's an unstoppable force who can bring his creative visions to life. The movie presented a sexy and heartbreaking vampire story, but it also spent a lot of time exploring the American narrative and the lives lived in Mississippi, and then unexpectedly introduced vampires into the mix. I think it's natural to draw from this time period or situation to reflect a deeper level of fear when building a horror, sci-fi, or supernatural tale from Black stories. And I love them. There's a growing trend in Black horror films and Black sci-fis or thriller movies that take satirical approaches to distinctly Black experiences, and I appreciate each and every one of them. This wasn't even satirical. This was just, what if? This is just understanding, and I love it. I see some folks quarrel or beef with this movie, and I think their opinions for the most part, are valid. I will say, I noted mine. Overall, I like this movie, and I will probably see it a 4th time. These films represent significant steps forward and serve as inspirations for more original big budget movies that we all want to see. Comment down below your thoughts on Sinners. Did you love it? What kind of way did you watch it? Please don't tell me you watched it on your phone.
Would you watch it again?
I don't know.
I'll say that this is gonna be tough. Would you watch it again? If you would watch it again, that's a lot.
I am a one time movie kind of person. I think it is worth watching multiple times, but honestly, for me spiritually, I don't know if I can take it again. I'm not in my grown age. I'm no longer big on the horror thing, anything that makes me jump. So that might be the reason why I wouldn't watch it again. But I think it was an amazing movie. And I wanted to point out how
You got your notes.
no, it was something that she just went and she just showed, and it you said something about it while we were watching the movie, but I didn't forget it.
Did you watch it again?
Yeah, I'll watch it again, not this week, but I'll watch it again. Not the scary point though. It was the point. It was a lot of different things towards the end. But one of the things that for those who are Christian and they say, I'm not going to see the movie at all because it's demonic. That's your preference. That's your choice. We're not here saying go see it no matter what. If you feel that that's going to put something in your spirit, if you feel that things that you feel and really live by, it will. If you feel that you're sick all the time, you're going to be sick all the time. If you feel that can bring something to your life you don't want, don't go see the movie. But I saw one Christian recapping that didn't see the movie, and he said, I don't want to see a movie where they have a man standing on his head. He was not standing on his head. The shot was shot from underneath Michael B. Jordan. his head was against a door, but from the shot. So that tells me right there he didn't see the movie
Yeah,
at all.
some people didn't see the movie. They just like, look,
Yeah.
It wasn't no one. So
So I also seen someone on Instagram
Talking
and she
about-
was talking about I'm Christian, I'm not going to see the movie, but she had a review for it. So for me, I'm like, how can you have a review
you
for
shouldn't be
this?
reviewing it.
Because when it comes for me, and this is coming from people who are Christians, for me, seeing that made me feel like you're part of the programming. As a black person, scoot to the side that you're a Christian. As a black person, you're telling people don't go support this black movie that I haven't seen myself, so I don't know what's gonna happen. Just because I didn't like the preview, and you have a platform and you saying don't go see this movie. Because for me, I think that even being a Christian, this movie has so many messages that is good for. I think a lot of people should see.
yeah.
Christian, no matter what religion you is, I think
if you
yeah,
believe in God,
practice
you
this
have discernment. You go in there and you
prejudging. We're not supposed to judge. So how can you judge something that you didn't see? If you feel like your spirit is so weak that you things are going to let in through this movie, then I understand. But also, then you're also not practicing when God says that we don't have a spirit of fear or that we have dominion over these demons.
What I tell you all the time, I'll be like, man, you be like, how do you listen to all that stuff? I'm like, because I'm not I'm not allowing it into my world. Like, no matter what's going on.
But I tell you, I can't even tolerate it.
Great movie overall. I will watch it again. Just to go back and look at some more things, try to catch some stuff that I didn't catch. Not this week, like Pop said, but definitely would check this movie out. I encourage anybody who is a thinker and is deep into things like that, go check this movie out. Go with your thinking friends, go with your thinking partner, whoever it may be. And yeah, man, go check it out. So shout out to them for that.
One thing too, the reason why I think it's not for kids, because they had a couple of things up in the movie that like we talk about the innocence of Sammy.
Mhm.
Sammy was a church boy. He had no real experience with a woman. His cousin, they've been in Chicago and everything. They telling him about, yeah, once you find that button, that spot, right? So in the part of the movie, you know what I'm saying? He hears his cousin, he hear a preacher, little Sammy up in there with Pearline. And Pearline, she was there without her husband. But she was having a very good time. And that's one of the things that Smokey did to his little white little chassis thing. He did that to her. And another thing in the movie, and like I say, you can't the movie you can absorb it, but you can't just get everything out of it in one review.
box.
You have to take a segment at a time and just really, if you just want to really go deeper into it. But one of the last things that I got from it too was at the end. What had drove him was the death of his baby son.
Yeah.
And at the end, that's why
I think it was
he
a
took
little girl.
yes, little girl, yeah, but was it son?
It was a son.
It was son. Okay, I know it was baby.
Yeah,
When he came, the little handprint, I know it was a baby. It looked like it was a boy.
it was. She said, "Hold your son."
Oh yeah, okay, she did say hold your son. But in order for him to be with him, he had to die.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me. In order for me to be with my son, I have to die. So he was really
now though.
But at the same time though, he made sure when the white man said, I got money for you. Ain't about money now. No, I'm ain't about y'all thought y'all was see that and that's when he brought it back. I know everybody wasn't cheering, but I was cheering when he was getting the KKK. Because he brought it back to they made thousands of movies and we got real clippings of white folks being in the KKK. They never show clippings of us getting the better end. You got Rosewood, for those who want to go see, where we get them back. You know what I'm saying? You got Django, and you got a real story of Nat Turner.
Yeah.
And them white folks went crazy when Nat Turner got at them. So back to the movie, man. The movie, man. If it's not gonna interrupt your spirit or have discernment, but go see the movie because y'all have seen every horror film it is that white folks directed. You know, when a brother direct, I ain't gonna. That's a whole. That's a whole. That's a whole.
Period. It's so many movies. If we want to talk about movies you wasn't supposed to see, it's a whole bunch of movies you probably have seen that you was not supposed to see. So and not just horror movies. It's crazy regular movies like that you might have not been.
You watch Power. Not Power and Baddies. I don't want to hear you say that.
Hey, not movies, just regular ABC, NBC, and CBS.
Yeah, it's stuff on TV all the time. So I mean, like I said, I don't support that the Christians I seen these black women and black men saying don't go support this black movie, but y'all will go see all this other crazy stuff. So I think just go see it, get a feel for it yourself, have your own opinion on the movie because right now the thing is a lot of people don't have their own opinion anymore. You're going off of what you see on social media. That's where you go to see, do I go see this or not? So for me, that's the only review I had previously heard, and I didn't want to see anybody else's reviews. I wanted to go see it for myself, and I think it was a very powerful movie.
I have one more thing to say. If anyone out there like my voice or like my face, come see me at Damn Loud Boys Podcast Sports Channel. I'm a Cowboy fan.
Hey,
gotta warn you.
I appreciate y'all for coming to the player circle and kicking it with me. And we all on these endeavors, and I'm proud of both of y'all, man. We have been seeing everybody progressing and getting this motion together, man. So salute to y'all for that. Y'all make sure y'all check out
Damn Loud Boys Podcast.
Y'all make sure y'all check out Damn Loud Boys Podcast.
You can follow me on Instagram at sberry_k with 2 Y's.
Her Thoughts podcast coming soon. You feel me? A lot of things coming soon from that. Y'all make sure y'all like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know what y'all think about the movie. Let us know if y'all seen it. If y'all plan to go see it, man. And y'all already know what to do, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And we be back with another one when we got another one. And man.
Yeah, okay. New player circle. So, get low. Yeah.